So welcome back to Everything Marketplaces, where we talk with founders and leaders from some of today's top marketplaces. So I'm actually going back to reshoot the intro for episode 53, which is a really incredible group chat that we just had with Steven Galanis, who's the CEO of Cameo. So most of you are probably familiar with Cameo, which is a marketplace for personalized videos and messages. It has over 40,000 celebrities, athletes, musicians, influencers, and other talent on its platform. Has also recently been noted as one of the fastest growing consumer marketplaces recently. To top that off, it's also raised over 165 million in venture capital from some of the top venture funds. So we're just going to cut right into this intro. Steven sharing a little bit more on his background and then the founding story of Cameo, which you're really going to love.
So guys, thank you so much for having me today. Really excited to meet everybody, share the Cameo story. The idea for Cameo was actually had at my grandmother's funeral of all places, and my co-founder Martin showed me a video that he'd gotten made for a guy who was really high up in Nike's marketing department. And the video was a Seattle Seahawks player congratulating this guy on becoming a father. That guy liked the video so much, despite the fact he worked with Michael Jordan and LeBron James and Kobe, he posted it on Instagram and said it was the best gift he'd ever got in his life. So as Martin's telling me about that, immediately I was like, holy shit, like, I think this is the new autograph. We should figure out like how to make these at scale. We then recruited Devin, my other co-founder, who leads product and was our CTO, founding CTO. And interesting about Devin represented this new class of people that have like grown up on the internet, people who are more famous than they are rich. So Devin was a Vine star with over 1 billion loops on Vine, but he was never able to monetize at all. So we kind of had the movie producer, talent agent in Martin. You had the former Vine star, who's a great coder and product leader in Devin. And then my background after graduating from Duke, I was an options trader, and then I worked at LinkedIn. So I was the marketplace kind of business guy there. And really it was the right founding team because all three of us are really good at what we did, but we had very little like skill overlap, which I think is critical to building like an enduring founding team.
That's awesome. That's quite the story to think about it, just knowing the scale you're kind of at today. So if we kind of go back to the early days when you first started it, as a marketplace, we're typically faced with the chicken and the egg kind of challenge, right? So where did you really start with building it?
Yeah, you could imagine when we had the idea and we were going to athletes and saying, because we started just with athletes first, telling them, hey, this is a platform where you can connect with your fans. We had no fans yet. We'd never sold a video. And you could imagine on the fan side saying, hey, we have a marketplace where you could book personalized video messages from all your favorite athletes, but we had no athletes. It became really clear to us that we needed to focus on the supply side of the marketplace first. And a really unique dynamic of Cameo is that our supply are famous. They have hundreds of thousands or millions of followers. And ultimately by promoting on Instagram, promoting on Twitter, by putting a link in bio, they could turn their followers into our customers for free. So really for the first 4 years of Cameo, we didn't actually spend any money on marketing, and all we focused on was supply side acquisition.
Awesome. And then maybe how did that kind of change as Cameo evolved and started to scale?
Even today, we're still very much in like supply side acquisition mode. We have 40,000 talent on Cameo. We believe there's over 5 million people on Earth that could be paid talent on Cameo. And if you're looking at the larger creator ecosystem, there's 50 million creators on Earth. And if you look at like American high schoolers, right? More high schoolers want to be a TikTok star influencer than doctor, lawyer, teacher, fireman, like any of the, classic occupations. So we believe that the pipeline is just going to be really big, and the TAM on the supply side will continue to increase. That said, I think today Cameo is more demand side constrained than supply side constrained. During our busiest times, like at Christmas, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Valentine's Day, we see people that maybe do 10 or 15 cameos a day, like they're able to do hundreds a day, right? So we know that people have more capacity. And as we get bigger, it's now our job as a marketplace to make sure that we're getting everybody booked as much as possible. And we try to think about it like, how do we make talent more money per minute on Cameo than anything else they could do online or offline.
Yeah, that's a great kind of segue into. I was actually researching some of your previous kind of chats, and you did mention the pricing and kind of how you've described that to some of the talent as per minute, right? So on that note, how did you initially kind of convince them, to join and that was worth their time and kind of come up with a kind of per minute kind of model?
Well, first we were just lucky to, take some of our friends and family who came on the platform, like people we knew. Martin was an athlete at USC. Devin and I went to Duke. We had a lot of friends that were NFL players or basketball players. And we were just lucky that like our friends took a shot on us when they absolutely shouldn't have, because the platform wasn't deserving. But pricing was interesting, right? Because nobody's ever sold anything like this. And the math that we used was basically what we today call earnings per minute. So for pro athletes, we would take their salary, their annual salary, which is publicly available online, divided by 2,000 hours in a work year, 50, 40-hour weeks, divide that by 60, which is about the average length of a video, and we could find out how much money they make per minute. So for example, Andre Drummond from the Detroit Pistons at the time was a max salary NBA player making $25 million a year. When I first brought this to him, he's like, this is awesome, but I probably need to pay, 20,000, 40,000, like some crazy amount of money like that. And I gave him this math. And is anyone really good at math here? Does anyone know how much money you make per minute if you make 25 million a year?
I wish I could say I do.
$208 per minute. So suddenly when you're selling people's time in these really small slices, right? A $200 video is actually more affordable, for a single mom trying to take her kid to go see him play, than like getting tickets to the game, getting parking, getting like dinner and, Coke and popcorn and all that type of stuff. So that was one of the big learnings that we had by like really selling the smallest unit of people's time. We could make them really affordable, but they also, if you're charging $300, $400 a video, you can make more money on Cameo than you are making as a max salary player in the NBA.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing more with us on that. So do you use that same kind of model for the talent across the board, or is that specific to the kind of categories?
It started with sports. That's how we got people to charge like way lower than you would think. So $1 million athlete might be $5 on Cameo, which the math didn't make sense to people originally, but like once they realized like, oh, okay, like whatever. And one thing I'll say too that we learned early was the paywall was a really important thing. If all Cameos were free, it would be Instagram DM or Twitter DM, and the chances that you're going to get that happy birthday message were very, very little. So for us, we've been hyper focused on building tools that help talent best price themselves. We've always let the talent price themselves. And the reason we did that is we never wanted them to say that this wasn't worth their time. So if they set their own price, by definition, right, it's kind of worth their time. And then today, now that we have 40,000 people, the pricing almost works more like Zillow, right? Or, you go in Zillow, you go on, you look at a new house in Miami, you go look at different places, you find that some things are relative good value or some things seem expensive, and people are shopping on Cameo the same now.
That's really interesting. As a marketplace, I'm kind of curious, since we are kind of talking about pricing a little bit, what metrics are you optimizing for?
Historically, we had optimized for amount of magical moments created. So we actually would prefer to sell $1 million $1 cameos than $1 million cameo, because every cameo ultimately is a commercial for the next one. So I get one for you, you share with this group, this whole group now learns about Cameo. They like that talent more because they had, there's someone they know and love, like had a positive experience with them. So they now have more affinity for everything else they're doing. So that's really the flywheel that we've thought about.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's definitely quite a flywheel. On that note too, on the demand side, is that primarily how you're generating demand?
Today, most demand is coming from a combination of talent sharing and customer sharing. So people are seeing these videos on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, and then they see the watermark, and then they learn that, hey, Brian Baumgartner's on Cameo, and they come that way. So that's where most of our traffic is coming. Most comes organic today.
Awesome. And then I did have a question to kind of expand on the business a little bit. As marketplaces typically kind of, I would say, expanding categories or expanding locations, but, given that Cameo is virtual, are you thinking about expanding into businesses, or what's kind of on the expansion kind of playbook for you guys?
So the vision of the company, just so you guys have an idea, like 10 years from now, how would the world be different because of Cameo? We want to build technology which enables every single talent on earth to have a personal relationship with each and every one of their fans. So there's a big surface area of things that can build these tighter relationships. And the math equation that I like to use to, show the vision is, for X amount of money, you as a fan should be able to pay to do Y activity with Z person that you love, right? And there's a lot of surface area. The personalized video shout out is the first Y activity that we, or the first Y activity that we rolled out. But there are so many different things that we can do. So today, Cameo is an asynchronous video chat platform, essentially. It's synchronous video chat, so like FaceTiming or one to something like this. This is another format that we're exploring right now through our products, Cameo Calls and Cameo Live. Texting with talent is something that we've rolled out through Cameo Direct. So we have a lot of different permutations. And look, in the future, when the world opens up, like, why shouldn't you be able to go to Cameo to get Kenny G to come play your wedding, or have your someone from your favorite football team come over to watch fantasy football with like your crew. So we're excited about where it's going. And, I like to say it's the top of the second inning for the marketplace.
That's awesome. And so just kind of going back a little bit, so you did mention rolling out the texting kind of product. So could you maybe speak to, at what stage you thought about that, and some of the kind of nuanced decision-making factors that went into launching that, and some of the learnings maybe?
So at the very beginning, we actually, like, anything you could think of in that for X amount of money, Y activity with Z person, we actually sold. So we used to have a concept in Cameo called challenges. We sold merch. Actually, the first thing we ever sold on the marketplace was a pair of personalized socks, like customized merch for one of the athletes. And, this guy played Magic the Gathering, so you could like book time to play Magic the Gathering with him. You could like go fishing with them, like anything you could imagine we had on there. We found product market fit with the videos first. We then killed everything off. One of the core values at Cameo is fight for simplicity. So to build a globally scalable platform, like, the more complexity, the more business lines you have, like, it's just going to slow you down. And we've always believed that the capital P product that we're selling is actually the capital T talent, right? The celebrities, athletes, personalities that are on our marketplace. So if you can aggregate those people and you have, high net promoter score and high retention of them, if they like working with you, you're going to be able to do other things with them in the future. So that's how we've always looked at it. But, for 4 years, we resisted the temptation to go do anything else because we wanted to nail the core experience. Now, we always felt that a 10% optimization in the core, right, is actually going to be more lucrative to the business than inventing a whole new one, right? So I don't think we're yet at the scale, like even today, like we're rolling out some of these new products, and a framework that we're thinking about at Cameo, like when I was at LinkedIn, Jeff Weiner had a framework that 70% of your time should be spent on the core, 20% on strategic initiatives, and then 10% on moonshots. Like, we're not even at the moonshot stage right now. So Cameo is spending about 80% of its time on the core and 20% on strategic initiatives that we feel like we, just need to do to move the ball forward.
Awesome. Yeah, that's super interesting. So also on that note, what is the team's size like today, and kind of in org structure?
So today we have about 300 employees. It's up from 100 pre-COVID, and 100, 125 pre-COVID. So one of the interesting things is 2/3 of the business has never worked in an office for us. And we've actually moved from being a company headquartered in Chicago with the second office in LA to being a fully distributed business that now has employees in 29 states, which is crazy. And we've also made the decision that we're not going to go back to offices after COVID. We're going to stay fully distributed. We're going to take that money to bring everybody together at different points. But for us, opening up the aperture and hiring the best people, no matter where they were, it's something that we felt was a bet worth taking. And again, we'll see if we can continue to maintain the great culture that we have today. But we're excited about this, distributed work from anywhere policy that we're rolling out.
Awesome. Yeah, it's certainly been amazing to see how quickly you've scaled. And I believe, the A16Z top 100 marketplaces, I believe you're on there as one of them recently, one of the fastest growing too, right?
For the last 2 years, we've been fortunate to be on that list. And, I think we've been in both those years, I think we're the fastest growing consumer marketplace for the last 2 years. So it's been pretty crazy growth that we've had.
Yeah, that's incredible, especially as a marketplace, right? Since it's so challenging. So I just out of curiosity, what kind of keeps you up at night as a CEO?
I think team building is always the thing that keeps you up at night as a CEO, especially now at this point, right? I'm not hiring every person anymore. I'm not meeting every person. So I've hired my executive team, who's hired their leadership team, who's now like hiring a lot of the people that are coming to work for us. And, really quickly, one thing people ask a lot about is culture, right? And I'm a very deep believer that culture is dynamic and it actually changes every single time you hire somebody. So it's not like there's not a monolithic like corporate culture, especially in a fully remote environment, right? You only really interact with the people you're on Zooms with or the people that, you're on Slack, like trying to get work done with. And if you hire an asshole, like it makes that whole pot of people's experience at the company worse, right? And to use a metaphor, it's kind of like taking a boulder and throwing it in the middle of a river, right? If that person is like a shitty person, bad culture fit, everybody learns, just like a river learns how to like flow around that boulder. The same thing happens when you have somebody that isn't working the way that you need them to work, or doesn't espouse the same values that you have as a company, and it creates a ton of friction. And it's really the job of leadership and the CEO to like keep the pulse, fingers on the pulse, and like remove those boulders where you can to make sure that you have a unified team that has a shared vision and mission, and they're going at it as hard as they can.
Yeah, that's definitely a really great point. I also too want to mention, definitely from the outside, kind of seeing all the past kind of chats and, on social for the company and everyone that's there, it seems like a great culture, but also that like you guys are all definitely having fun building Cameo too. So
make it fun was a corporate value of Cameo. It's not anymore, but we've actually changed that to make it memorable. But that's one of the really fun things about running a consumer marketplace, guys, is that, we don't have like big enterprise customers. We can do fun things. And we always had that in us. I remember when we were like 4 or 5 people, we couldn't hire engineers. And one day we rented a plane and flew it over Facebook's headquarters in Silicon Valley. And there was just a huge banner and it just said, "Tell Mark you quit, cameo.com/jobs," right? And like, this is the type of thing that is just in our DNA as founders. And, we try to keep it Cameo. We try to make sure that everybody is having a blast, working at the company. But look, at the end of the day, it is a business. And, you can't forget that. I do find sometimes, especially over the past year, right, there's been so many challenges that we've all had to go through as founders and leaders, and keeping people united during, really trying times, whether it was all of the protests last year, or it was the election, right? There's just so many crazy things going outside of the company, and really making sure that you're able to bring everyone together and say like, hey, this business's core mission is like, look, we cannot save the world or like do good unless this business is making money. And the decision making that we are doing is always going to be what's best for the bottom line of this business. And if the bottom line's healthy, then we can help be impactful other places.
Awesome. That's an amazing story about the plane that you just shared with us. So cool. So we're going to jump in here at questions in a little bit, but right before we do, so I have to bring it up. So you guys have had quite the journey when it comes to fundraising. So could you maybe share a little bit more with us on what that was like?
The first thing that I want to like always stress when I talk to like founders is I think a lot of people look at fundraising and VCs and they really put them on a pedestal, and like fundraising is a nervous process that you don't really want to do. And a few years ago, like I really like forced a mindset shift on myself, and I've really been trying to give this like little tidbit to the founders that I invest in or that I work with. And I always say, like, all fundraising is, it's just a proxy for hiring, right? People are giving you money so they can outsource hiring to you, right? They believe in your business. They're giving you money. You're turning that money into great people that can help expand the product market fit, that can build a great culture. And in the same way, like, you never get nervous when you're interviewing someone, right, to come work for you. Right? And it's okay if like some candidate that you really want, like, takes another job, like, it's fine. You're going to find somebody else. Fundraising should be approached exactly the same as recruiting for hiring, because it really is the same thing.
That's great. I think we definitely all needed to hear that as founders here. So cool. So we're going to jump in here for some questions really quickly. Let's see. Hey, Adrian, do you want to jump on? We'll come back to you, Levi.
Hey, Steven. Thanks, Mike. So I kind of wanted to, I was wondering if we could circle back with this, I guess, the cold start problem, or like the chicken and the egg problem, however you want to call it. So you had to start somewhere. Did you convince how were you able to convince the athletes to jump in if you didn't have any supply, or vice versa?
Yeah. So my co-founder, Martin, as I mentioned, was an NFL agent, and he had exactly one player. This guy, Cassius Marsh, who was on the Seattle Seahawks. So I remember, like, I was still working at LinkedIn at the time, and Martin's like, hey, we're going to fly up to Seattle and like go to watch Cash's game. And we're going to like tell him about this and like try to convince him to come on. And Cassius, the video that I told you about in the founding story, he was the one that had made that. So we came to him and we're like, hey, we saw this thing you did. We had an idea. Like, what if we could do this over and over again? And people that don't know Martin, right, the agent, could actually like have access to you for like a fee. And we told him the idea. He loved it. He actually was the first investor in the platform and was talent number one. And then from there, we were literally going like, hand in hat to like anyone we knew, right? So, other athletes that I knew from college, other people that played with Cassius, like, we started just working like our own personal networks. But the big change for us, the most important talent we probably ever added to the platform, was actually Devin's roommate, of all people. So I mentioned Devin was a famous Viner. His roommate, Cody Co, was also a really famous Viner, and it actually made the transition to YouTube. He was like one of the few people to really do it. And one day Devin's like, I think Cody and people like Cody, Cody had 5 million followers on YouTube, might be good at Cameo. And I'll never forget, Cody put a Cameo in one of his YouTube videos. The site like blew up. We then realized that like these internet personalities, influencers, reality TV stars, that's actually who we had even more product market fit for than athletes. Because look, if you're a YouTuber, you're like in the NBA for making video content, right? And that really is where the supply side, flywheel started. Levi, I think you had a question.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I did. Hey, Steven, apologies there for a quick second, but hey, I've actually got the perfect segue here. So, we're building e-commerce infrastructure that directly serves, creators and publishers. And one of the things I'd love to get your thoughts on here, like, I love that founding story of Cassius Clay. One of the things that we're approaching is actually working directly with like the talent managers themselves, right? That typically represent like say 10 to 500 on the talent side. given the fact that you guys, first of all, looked for sort of like bottom up adoption of right of working with the individuals, is there anything that you would cautious with saying like, hey, before you go and try to sort of, really go, I guess, like the B2B or more enterprisey route, there might be value in, working with the individuals there. Would be curious if like now with hindsight, if you guys would have changed that game plan.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the most important strategic decision we made on the supply side was to go directly to the talent. And we've pitched every agency on earth, we've met every manager. And like ultimately, what you're gonna find, Levi, is they're all gonna have their hand out, right? They're all gonna have their hand out and say like, I'll bring my guys on, but I need this, I need, equity, we told everybody no. In fact, one thing most people don't know about Cameo, we've never changed our take rate for anyone on the platform. Every single person from Snoop Dogg on down is on a 75-25 split. We've never given a minimum guarantee. We've never paid anyone to come on Cameo. We've never given anyone equity to be on the platform, ever, right? And like, by having the same deal, while it may make it harder at the beginning, right? Ultimately, the bigger you get, people just know like that's the deal. Kind of like Apple's take rate, right? If Apple ever dropped to 30%, like, and then, Epic got 8% and Cameo got 14%, like it just actually slows everything down. So I'm a huge proponent of like fixing take rate and just never deviating from it. And if people in the short term say no, right, that's actually okay. Because if you are the platform that can provide them the most value, they're going to come back.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I was having a conversation with some CAA type, similar to Instructure, and they're like, hey, like this makes a lot of sense for our content creators, but like, how does it benefit us, right? If we go in and we get them to implement your platform, like what you're doing, like how do we make a cut? I was like, and I had never really thought about that side of it. And so, oh man, thanks for the feedback.
Yeah, and look, it may be that route can work. That hasn't worked for us. I know other people like Masterclass, for example, have done a great, really done good work, like getting talent on through agencies, and it just that didn't work for us, right? So I'm not saying that won't work for you, but I'm just trying to share, my experience and say that in our case, going direct to the talent was the most important decision that we made on the supply side.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, man.
That was a really great question. Hey, Steven, so I had a question for you myself. I'm sure you got quite a few no's in the early days, as you mentioned. Was there some, like one point that kind of stands out where you started getting more yeses and people coming on the platform?
On the supply side or on fundraising?
Sorry, on the supply side with the talent.
Yeah, I think last year was really like a huge tipping point. I mean, Cameo in 2019 was the fastest growing consumer marketplace on earth. So like we were ripping before COVID, but coming in right before COVID, I would say the number one and number two reasons talent wouldn't join are I make too much money or I have no time. And you got to remember last year, every single member of the creative class and every athlete on earth and every musician on earth, everybody was unemployed, right? Everybody lost their job. There were no games, there were no concerts, there were no productions being made, there's no stand-up comedy, and everybody was sitting at home. So last year for us was kind of like playing Mario Kart and hitting a star, right? And then you go like 10 times faster and you can bump into shit and like you're just flowing. Like that was kind of the year we had. It was a big pull forward. These people all would have been on Cameo eventually, but it gave them like this aperture where they missed their fans and they found a way to connect. And the thing that we've been really excited by is that as the world has opened back up, like everyone except for live music is back right now, and live music will be back in a big way this summer, which I'm super excited about. I saw Lollapalooza in my hometown of Chicago just announced full capacity, like full lineup, right? So like people want to go back to that stuff, but when football players came back, Drew Brees didn't like stop making cameos, and we're really bullish that they came on. That was a window that opened for us. They loved the platform, and now when the world's coming out, this is just part of their creator monetization stack.
Awesome. That's definitely super interesting. Hey, so we actually had a question in here from Tulu on the note of music. So I think he was asking how you can kind of tap into the music industry, maybe with artists that have smaller followings.
Look, we want to be a platform where you can succeed if you're a nostalgic talent, if you're someone really relevant now, or if you're next, right? If you're an emerging creator, emerging musician, emerging artist. And we've found that like when people have anywhere up to about 25,000 fans, that's where they can start like actually like doing well on Cameo. And the thing that's really cool is that we really learned from, even watching Devin, right? My co-founder Devin still has like 20, 30,000 followers on Instagram, residual from his Vine days. And those 20, 30,000 people like Devin just as much as Justin Bieber's 20 or 30 most passionate fans like him. Devin just has way less of them than Justin Bieber, right? So making sure that, you can find those super fans and cultivate that, that's important. And one of the things that we've learned over the last 4 years is that, talent are motivated by three things: money, fame, and love, right? And the cool thing about Cameo is that the talent are getting paid to become more famous and more beloved. I say more famous because, Dan, you get a cameo and I get a cameo for you. You share it on your Facebook. It's Kenny G, like, wishing your mom happy Mother's Day, right? Like everyone in your mom's network now is going to like Kenny G more than they did before. Like they might not have thought of him for 20 years. And like now he's getting back into the conversation. So that's what's really exciting about the platform. And I think, for emerging talent, yes, they're not going to come on and make as much money as Snoop Dogg will, like right away. But the more time that they put into it, they're turning their casual fans into passionate super fans who we think will be highly monetizable downstream once they've had this great personal experience with them.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've seen the some of the reaction videos, so I can definitely see, from social, the super fans that people are creating for sure. And then I also saw the reaction from the cameo that you created for your mom, which is awesome.
Yeah,
that was really cool. So hey, Raymond, did you want to jump on?
Hey, Steven, thank you for taking the time and sharing your insights. Super helpful. So I have a business called Trend where micro influencers create content for brands. And so our vision is for anyone with an iPhone to create content for brands. And my question to you is, I'm sure there was a point in time where the market potential for Cameo wasn't as obvious as it is right now. And you face a ton of rejection for fundraising. So how you said it's still early, right? Even with 40,000 celebrities. So my question is, what was the biggest objection for fundraising when it wasn't obvious, and how did you overcome that barrier?
Yeah. So in the early days, it was really TAM, right? Like how big could this be? How many famous people are actually out there? And VCs really didn't understand like this wave of influencers and creators at all, right? Now you can't help but hear about the creator economy. Nobody was talking about it even in 2019. Like really pre-Cameo's like Series B, that was a big moment where when Kleiner came in and did a Series B and we had 5 term sheets for that round, that was the moment where people were kind of like, oh shit, like there could be something really big here. So I just wouldn't be I wouldn't be as long as you have like really high conviction that there's a big market there, I wouldn't worry so much about what people who says no. Like you just got to find the people that like believe your vision and get them to say yes. I always tell people you only need one person to say yes, right? Go pitch 500 people, it doesn't matter, you just need one yes. Just like when you're hiring, right? You need a new CMO, like you go hire, go interview 40 people, you just need one, right? Get them in, find the person that's aligned with you and go from there. Today, the biggest objection, like we just came through our Series C, is actually more on customer retention. Our product has an 80 NPS, but today the average person will buy 1.5 cameos in their lifetime. So we've done 2.5 million cameos right now. And when people do the math, they're like, well, there's probably this amount of people in the world that could buy Cameo. And like, if they're only going to buy 1.5, like how, like this business just may have a ceiling of how big it can be. So for us, right, like the $10 billion plus question is going to be, can we get people to come back and take a product that they love and like use it more, right? And it may be that different, formats. It may be that the personalized video, people are only going to buy a couple of times, but maybe Cameo Direct is something they use every day, or whatever this thing that we'll invent in the future is. But the reason we have a lot of conviction is the word fan comes from the word fanatics, right? And if you love soccer, right, and you're a big Tottenham Hotspurs fan, right, you're going to go to the game, but then you're going to buy the hat and you're going to buy the pen, like you're going to have the pennant in your room, you're going to have the jersey. Like fans are by definition like fanatical, and they have high retention at scale. So all you have to really believe is that we will find the right format and right bucket of goods to sell people. And if you believe that the capital P product is the talent on the platform, it's a high retention. It has all the ingredients to be a high retention marketplace. We just haven't created the little P product yet that's really nailed that in a big way.
Sweet, thank you, appreciate it.
This is a really great question. Hey, Steven, so on the note as far as retention, on the consumer side, could you maybe share more on the supply side as far as the talent? Like how many cameos or some of the talent, I would say some of the kind of top percentile are they actually doing per month?
So our biggest talent made over 10,000 cameos last year. So people can do nearly 1,000 a month in actual videos. In revenue, we've now had 5 people make over $1 million on the platform, including a couple that did $1 million just last year, right? So it's pretty crazy. We had 168 talent that made over 100K last year on the platform, right? So up from, I think we had 25 do that the year before, right? So more people are making more money on the platform, which is generally good for the entire ecosystem. And look, at the end of the day, I think for us, we also have a leaky bucket where there are a lot of talent that join and never get booked, right? Maybe they never promote, or they never set their price. And then if you're the 8,000th influencer, right, on the search, it's just hard to find you, because our algorithm rewards you for doing cameos well, right? Doing them quickly, having a high fulfillment rate, having great reviews, and in a really quick turnaround time. Those are some of the main weighting that we do. So the more you do, the faster you do them, the better they are, the higher you raise up in the game of Cameo, which makes it easier for people to find you, and you get booked more. So it's that cycle. So one thing that we focus on, we don't focus on retention as far as every person that comes on, do they all work, right? 37% or something like that of the talent we add will never get booked. Fine. But we have net negative churn when you're looking at revenue. So all of our cohorts are more valuable 1 year in the future, 2 years in the future, 3 years in the future than they were in year one. And that's what we really try to watch, to make sure that on an aggregate, people are becoming more successful at the game.
Awesome. That's super interesting. Let's see. Hey, Doc, did you want to jump on? You ready?
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks so much, Steven. Thanks so much, Mike, for having this. I remember I've actually been using Cameo since 2018 with getting our clients. We started with one of the guys we were working with. He would just book Bam and other people from Jackass just making fun of him. And then people were just like, why would you ever, who does this? And that's how we started getting clients, by just booking cameos, making fun of our videographer. So thank you. I have a question regarding, you were talking about the talent and, some might not get booked. Do you have a community or SOPs to help ones really dial in on what they need to do? Or is it kind of, they need to watch what other successful ones are doing and then, up their game?
So one a non-intuitive thing about our business from the outside looking in is we at once built Cameo to look like a tech platform. So, all the roles that they would have at TikTok or Instagram or YouTube, like we have a Cameo. But separately, we've also built something that probably looks like CAA 2.0, right? There's over 80 people at Cameo whose whole job it is to either recruit talent to the platform or work with them. So our talent relations team, each rep may work with somewhere between 200 and 500 of the creators on the platform. And their job is to help scale best practices, help them with pricing, get them looped into charitable promotions or big things that we're doing. And that like high touch part of our marketplace is a really unintuitive thing that most people don't understand is going on in the background. So all of the talent, they didn't just like join Cameo and like they joined Snapchat or Instagram. Like they know everyone on the team, which is pretty cool. Not everyone, but everyone knows someone on the team. And that was just a bet we made. And frankly, look, if we came out of the Valley, like the TR team would probably be a chatbot. But for us, like we really felt that putting people at the problem and really focusing and building deep relationships made more sense for our business long term.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Hey, Steven, also on that note too, I know I have quite a questions myself on this. I believe you shared in the past as far as talent inviting other talent. Do you do a kind of rev share off that or?
Yeah, we have a talent to talent referral system, and this was a huge hack for us. So just people ask me about the splits on the marketplace really quickly. I know that's always a question. In our marketplace, we just kind of like invented that, but the way that we did it, if you were an NFL agent and you found someone a marketing deal, you would make 20% of their bookings. So what we decided was like, oh, there's payment processing, there's some like, AWS fees. So we'll make it 75-25, and we just kind of stuck with that. At the same time, like when we're thinking about supply side acquisition, today there's three main ways people join Cameo. One, they can just download the app, and if they're famous enough, they can like come on the platform. Two, we reach out to them. And then three, people refer their friends. And it's like an unintuitive thing, but like famous people know other famous people, right? Like you get someone on the Chicago Blackhawks, like they have a locker room full of guys like that they could go do it. So we wanted to incentivize our early adopters, and we created a referral system where anyone you refer, you get 5% of their bookings for 1 year out of our cut. So the take rate goes 75 to the talent. So it's the same if they sign up normally, if they get recruited by us, or if their friend refers them. 5% to the referrer, 20% to Cameo. And the reason we realized we could do this is because our cohorts are more valuable in the future than they are today. So giving up that margin, ended up being like a really good hack for us. And it kind of prevented us from ever having to pay minimum guarantees. And then, the other thing that I'll mention is 55% of the marketplace GMV today comes from the 20% of talent that were referred. So a lot of the biggest people we've ever gotten, we didn't just get to Snoop Dogg by DMing him. Like we got to Snoop Dogg because Ice-T was on the platform, who was doing really well. And then he showed Snoop like, look, I made 80 grand last month. Like, look how fun and easy this is. And that's how we got in. So, I would encourage you to, and we haven't cracked this on the demand side yet. Like, I think there's probably a similar, demand side could be really helpful or help with like retention, buy two, get one free, something like that. And we've iterated a lot of stuff, but on the supply side, it's been huge for us.
Yeah, that's incredible as far as how much of the, how much that's paid off when it comes to GMV too.
Yeah.
So cool. So I think we have time for one more question. Dan, did you want to jump on?
Sure. Steven, it's great to talk to you. I have a background in the entertainment industry in film production, and I worked on the movie Rudy. I know you're a Chicago guy. And I recently was talking to Rudy, and he told me a story about how Sean, who played Rudy in the movie, got Rudy to create a Cameo account.
Yep.
So, full circle closed. Great story.
It's funny. We have both Sean and the real Rudy on the platform.
Yeah, and Rudy told me that. Yeah. That's how he got to it. I have a marketplace called Book Yaya that is a live virtual event marketplace connecting authors with readers.
Cool.
And I have learned a lot by listening to you over the years, do podcast conversations. So, thank you. And one of the questions that I have is, Amazon for authors has created a metric that authors can look to see how their book is doing in their category. For an author to say, hey, I'm #1 on Amazon is a big deal. And I'm wondering whether or not you have created any kind of, non-monetary metric to keep your supply side engaged. That's part of, maybe higher up in the funnel than earning.
It's a fantastic question. I think that, so think back to this like money, fame, and love question that we talked about earlier, right? Money has been easy for us to prove, right? Like they have a dashboard, they see how many videos they made, they can see their earnings, they can cash out like Venmo, right? So that was kind of easy. Love, pretty easy, right? Someone makes a reaction video or a Cameo comes out and they're tweeting at you, like you feel that every time you do it. The fame is still the thing that we need to crack. And I'm increasingly convinced that Cameo is a game and that all of these marketplaces really, like, you need to find the gamification in it. When you look at Uber, right, it took them like 8 or 9 years before they had a demand side like gamification, right? Your Uber Platinum or whatever, right? They now have those things, but ultimately people want to move up in the game. And at different points in Cameo history, we started rolling out different levels of the game. And the #1 way that I would say people look at the game right now is where they are in the stack rankings, right? So if you go to the actors category, who's first, right? How did the algorithm decide you were first? But in the future, I could imagine, right, saying, I'm, 3rd out of 27 people that played Notre Dame football, or I'm number 86 in athletes, right? Then I think like people want to see that and they want to move up in the game. We just haven't gotten there yet. And, some marketplaces are earlier to do that. I think because we had the money, that was a good proxy. Like you could see how they were making, but ultimately people want to move up in the game.
I just want to say one other thing. Years ago, there was this amazing graph that came out, I think it was from Andrews and Horowitz, about how to analyze quality ideas for marketplaces. And one of them is frequency and value of average transaction. And they noted Cameo as an outlier, as low frequency, low cost of transaction, yet brilliant idea nonetheless.
Yeah.
And that was really eye-opening. And really impressive. And you referred to it just now about, if it's only 1.5 in a lifetime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, right, like I think what people didn't understand is that like how deeply we as humans value connection and like wanting to hear from our heroes or people we admire. And I think like fandom is just something that hasn't been is understood. Especially in tech platforms like that. So look, I hope that we can turn our retention around because this business like has all of the legs to be one of the most important marketplaces on earth. But we need to get people to come back. But the one thing we take a lot of solace in is the product has an 80 NPS, right? So it's up there with the iPhone or Tesla is the most beloved product on earth. So everybody tells me that Net Promoter Score is the greatest leading indicator of long-term customer retention and loyalty. So it's our job to make sure that the NPS of the platform stays high, and then to keep tinkering, and eventually, like, hopefully we'll find our thing. Like Amazon at our age, when it was 5 years old, the users bought books exactly the same amount of time in a lifetime as they did, right? You buy 1 or 2 books a year online, and then something like Amazon Prime came, and suddenly, like overnight, it went from 1.5 purchase frequency to like 20 a year overnight. So we're looking for that killer feature, and we need to find that that big step function change. That's kind of the next big thing for us.
Awesome. That was a really great question, and looks like you already have some feedback on that too in the chat over here. So cool. So I definitely want to be conscious of time. This is a really incredible chat, but I want to kind of wrap it up. And last kind of question, we can take it two different directions. So the first would be, what's one memorable kind of moment in your journey that kind of stands out? And the other would be whichever direction you want to go. What's been your favorite Cameo thus far?
One moment that stands out. I think like Snoop Dogg, when he like found out about Cameo and he FaceTimed me and he goes, Steven, Cameo's brilliant. You gotta let me invest. We're gonna billionize this shit together. Like that was pretty cool. And just to see like how excited he was. And I remember talking to him and he's like, Brazil is my second biggest fan base. This is a way for me to be in Brazil without having to go to Brazil, right? That was really cool. The other question was, what was the other question?
Your favorite Cameo.
Oh, I got a guy named Michael Franti for my mom last year for Mother's Day, and she just like lost her mind, and she didn't even know who this guy was. Some random guy on LinkedIn hit me up and said, Steven, I know you've sold over 1 million Cameos, but I just bought one for my wife for Mother's Day from Michael Franti, and it's the best one that's ever been made on the platform. And I'm kind of like, okay, like send me the video. I want to see it. It actually was the best one I ever saw. And then I got one for my mom from him, and like he blew me away. So Michael Franti's for my mom is the best one I've seen so far.
That's amazing. Those are two great stories to kind of wrap things up. So yeah, once again, wow, this is really incredible. People are already messaging me about how great this was. So I really appreciate taking the time to join us today and share more on Cameo. So we're definitely we're pulling for you. On that note too, last but not least, time for a kind of quick plug. Where can we keep up with you?
On Twitter, I'm at Mr. 312, Chicago's area code. So the number is 312. And then LinkedIn, I'm really probably most active. I worked at LinkedIn, so that's where my biggest following is. So if you want to like keep up, shoot me a request on LinkedIn. And my email is Steven@Cameo. So if you guys ever have questions, hit me up.
Awesome. Really appreciate it again. So thanks for taking time to join us. And thanks for the great questions, everyone.